Hey y'all, it's Christina. Welcome to the Cusp of Rebirth, and I am excited today. Welcome back, y'all. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the transformative moments in life that push us to evolve and become our best selves. Today, we are joined by the incredible Janell. Janell is a midwife, a yogi, a surfer, and here to share her rebirth experience with us all as she continues to provide support to the community, take care of herself in ways that are healing and holistic, and continue to bring forward the energy to know that we are supported in ways that sometimes we don't even really see. And so, Janelle, welcome to the Cusp of Rebirth. What would you like to share about yourself in the sense of your bio and all of the goodness that you bring forward?
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for that introduction. Um, yeah, my journey to being a midwife is a rebirth story. I feel like that's, like a lot of stories, easier to tell now that it's in retrospect and I'm looking back and going, "Oh yeah, that was a full circle moment in my life, that decision." But encompassed in that were these, if you will, shorter timelines, these shorter, smaller circles of coming into fruition of other things. So it was a lot of things happening at once that led me to midwifery. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I do. I can't front. So, yeah, we met at the tree recently during an open house, and the way that things just naturally continue to evolve through our conversation, I was able to, of course, learn some things about Janelle. And one of the things that I want to share, as you can see the excitement all in my cheeks, is that she is a surfer, y'all. And um, I'm gonna be surfing with her at
Yes.
some point. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to. But when she explained to me what it felt like to surf and be in the water, I was sold. And mind you, I've been around people who've surfed before. I've been to retreats where surfing has been an option, and I definitely declined. Yet when Janelle shared with me her experience surfing, I was sold. And so would you please share with the people, what brought you to that practice? And also, how it is that you feel when you're out there in the
Yeah.
water.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about it. Well, disclaimer, I use the term surfer loosely. But I get out there and I have a board and I have a wetsuit and I try. Um, so I am from Seattle. I grew up surrounded by water, both the Puget Sound, of course, and lakes. I grew up just with a lot of lakes within stone's throw. And so while I've never really been a super strong swimmer, I've always loved the water. I'm always going to get in the water when that's an option. Um, when I go on vacation, I play in the ocean. When there's a pool, I'm getting in it. But again, not a strong swimmer, but it's going on 3 years ago. I was in Hawaii, and that's actually where I eloped. And um, my friends gifted my husband and I a lesson, a surfing lesson as a wedding gift. And when we received this, while we were still in Hawaii, I was like, oh God, like surfing, I can't surf. I don't even, swim very strong. And so, but we had to do it because it was a gift and it was already paid for. So it was a close friend of a friend that was giving us this lesson, and so I already felt comfortable because it wasn't a total stranger. And I thought it would go so badly that my partner and I, we were laughing, and he was like, okay, when you fall, make sure you put your hands up in front of your face so the board doesn't hit your nose or bust a tooth out or something. So we were kind of expecting a little bit of a bloodbath, because I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And, and he's the athlete, and I've never identified as super athletic, but we got out, and the board, at least that's best for beginners, are the really long ones. They're easier to ride. And so when we first started, the instructor said, this is like the Cadillac board of boards, right? You're going slow and it's steady and it's a smooth ride. And we paddled out, and we weren't too far out. And of course, the teacher's behind you, and he's reading the waves and saying, okay, this is the one, and they kind of push you off. I guess you could say the disclaimer is kind of like having training wheels, but he pushed me off, and I stood up the very first wave I ever tried to ride. And I knew immediately that this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life, in terms of, so long as I was able to, I knew I would get on a surfboard and be in the ocean. So that day, there were 7 waves that I attempted to pop up on the board and ride, and I caught 6 out of 7.
Wow.
And I was amazed. There's no way to explain it. I mean, I kind of joke and say that, like, I didn't want to have to struggle and to get back on the board in deep water, because that's like, you got to really have a lot of upper arm strength. And I wasn't trying to do that. So there was a part of me that was determined to ride it to the shore, because I wasn't about to fall off before, because it's too hard to get back on otherwise. But my husband, who is the athlete between the two of us, didn't catch one wave. Not one.
Okay.
And he was out there trying, he was struggling and everything. And I was we were just amazed. I would have bet against myself. I did bet against myself, but that was my introduction. I was immediately hooked. I was high. I was in awe. I knew also that the muscle groups that I was using were really similar to yoga. I made that connection right away with yoga and having that centeredness. So we get back from Hawaii, and for a whole year, I'm like, I'm going to go surfing. I'm going to go surfing. I never go to the ocean in LA. I'm going to do it. And I just felt like I couldn't do it by myself. I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know what kind of board I wanted or needed. And so I came across a group. I think I just Googled Black people surfing Los Angeles or something like that. And I found an organization called Color the Water. And it's run by 2 really incredible folks, a Filipino American and a Black woman, a Black American woman. And it's completely free. And they have boards for you. They have wetsuits of all sizes. There's food, there's music, and they get together minimum once a week throughout the year, not just in summertime. And so now I surf with them. And back to what you're saying about, what it feels like for me, even on the days that I join the group, but the waves are a little too choppy for me as a beginner, and I get in the water, what's important for me and what I need in terms of processing my emotions, my trauma, is I need to be tossed around by the ocean. I need to be humbled by the ocean. I guess you could say it domed. I like being tossed around by the ocean because it's really easy for me to get stuck in my head and be very cerebral. And the presence of mind that is required to be in the ocean and always have your eye on it as a force that could end your life at any second is what I need to get out of my head. And so my favorite part of surfing is the falling, my favorite part, because it's like, you just feel like a kid again, and you fall, and it just feels good to be tossed around and to not be in control. It feels good to not be cerebral and to be tiny. It feels good to be a speck in the ocean, because it's some of the only moments in my life where I don't feel responsible for everything. So I surf for my sanity, I surf for my balance, and I surf for the reminder that I'm a speck. And I think that there's maybe people in their life who've, struggled with various things to feel empowered or to have agency. I haven't had those struggles. I've had the opposite or the others where I feel overly responsible for things and overly in control. And that's, you know, its own trauma response. And so I need this to remind me that it's not all my doing and it's not all on my shoulders.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And so I
Yeah.
look forward to joining the organization and coming out with you as well. Um, and y'all can join us too if
Yes,
you're
color the water.
in.
They're incredible. It's all free. It's all ages. We have little 3-year-old out there on the board. There's parents out there. It's only people of color. Primarily it's Black folks that join, and you don't have to be a strong swimmer. There's no pre-test. You just you get out there and you get some lessons. And it's the organization is about, you know, decolonizing and rewriting and taking back this sport and this fun process that is Indigenous and it is African and Polynesian and other Indigenous cultures that have done this forever. And so this idea isn't how many waves did you catch? Did you stand up? It's did you commune with the ocean and did you feel good? And so it's a really beautiful organization. Color the water.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like that's definitely a rebirth in itself. Like that every time you do fall, you know, you have that washing of sorts in the water and come out anew. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, and I was 40 years old when I started surfing. So don't let age, you know, stop you.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for sharing that too, because I do hear it. I hear it a lot, even with yoga. I'm too old to be doing that. And I'm like, wait, no, you're not.
Mm-mm. Nope.
You're not too old at all. And so remembering that we have these practices, remembering that these practices are most times more than not indigenous
Mhm.
to us, you know. And
Mhm.
so as we speak of rebirths and, you know, of course, being that yoga is one, has been one for me, and surfing
Mhm.
again one for you. Midwifery, how
Yes.
have you been in midwifery, and what was the shift that allowed you,
It's 2 o'clock.
that allowed you to really remember that that
Yeah.
was alignment, this journey?
Yeah, it was a long time in the making. So well, you know, I'll skip to I'll tell this story from different time points, and I'll start in undergraduate. And I was getting my bachelor's degree in anthropology, specifically cultural anthropology, medical anthropology, and I wrote my senior thesis, my dissertation on the rise of cesarean birth in
Mm,
Western medicine. And really, because it was anthropology, it was about, you know, what is this history of midwifery and what is the history of obstetrics and why are we seeing this rise in cesarean births? So I wrote this. I wrote it and I graduated and that was fine. And you know, again, you know, in studying cultural anthropology, I was really fascinated with the ways in which the body is a side of the politic, you know, the body politic, and how we can have these cultural forces actually shape how we experience this life vis-a-vis this body, you know. Um,
yes.
so that was my focus. And then, you know, fast forward, um, I was I was volunteering in a women's free and low cost clinic in San Francisco, and I became a medical assistant, and I was really I felt really good being a person that could talk about, you know, sexual reproductive health and test for STIs and, you know, talk about family planning and things like that, and seeing how people, when they had agency over their bodies, it kind of segued into having agency over other areas of their life. And it was this empowering experience. And so I really loved that. And I decided to get my master's in public health. And so I got my master's in public health at UCLA in Los Angeles. And my focus again was sexual reproductive health and disaster response and disaster medicine. And so once I finished my master's, well, during the master's program, I went and worked in Uganda with HIV positive pregnant people and lactating people. And I was doing this, from a public health lens. And I was charged with having to collect a lot of different data at these rural health centers. And I didn't do a good job at that. It was very epidemiology and focus, but I wanted to spend all my time just sitting and talking to these people. And I wasn't the best at just collecting the data and the numbers and going through the logs and things. I did, in retrospect, more ethnography, if you will, where I was like, tell me about your life, like how did we end up here and why are you a peer educator? And so found myself really drawn to the stories of these women who were, pregnant and HIV positive or parenting and HIV positive. So that gets us to 2016. I had finished my master's degree. I was working in public health as a research coordinator. I was working in the HIV field. It was a dream job. I loved it. And I was traveling the world. I was working in Africa. I was working in Southeast Asia. My boss at the university was incredible. Just the money was good. I was good, but 2016 rolled around and I got antsy and I was like, something's afoot, for lack of a better way to put it. I just felt something was, I don't even know if the word was missing. What I felt was that I was on my way to something, but I didn't know what I was arriving to or what I was going to find. And it was just this, it was this antsiness where it was like, I'm traveling the world and that's great. The money's good. I am not being micromanaged. I'm not dealing with microaggressions. My boss isn't a racist bitch. You know what I mean? Like it was like a really great environment. My partnership was good. But there was something in me that was longing and I couldn't put my finger on it. And so I looked for what it could be. And I remember one day I drove to yoga. I did my yoga class. And on the way, I saw a for rent sign at an apartment. Now, mind you, I have been living with my partner in our apartment for several years. But the question I was trying to answer was, is this thing in me, do I need more space? Is this about my partnership? Do I need my own apartment? And so after yoga, I went to that apartment building because they were having an open house. And I remember feeling kind of guilty, like I was doing something wrong by even exploring if this was what the thing was, And myself and some other people that were there to look at the apartment were waiting outside for the manager to open the door. And she was fumbling with the keys and it turned out she had the wrong keys and we couldn't get in. We couldn't see the apartment. And in that moment, I said, this wasn't the thing. It wasn't the thing. It's something else. That's not the thing. And so I went home and I said to my partner, at this point, we'd been together maybe 8 or 9 years already. And I said, I'm going to be leaving. And he said, what? Are you leaving me? And I said, no. I mean, yes, like physically, I'm going to be leaving, but I'm not ending the relationship. He said, where are you going? And I said, I don't know, but there's something on the wind and I can feel it. And I'm just letting you know that I will be listening and I will follow it. And that was really hard conversation because I didn't know where I was going, I didn't know what I was talking about. And he is not an air sign. He's an earth sign. He's a Virgo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, what are you talking about? And I just said, it's going to involve women. I know that this is about women. This is about the divine feminine. I know that where I'm headed is that I know it's not in Los Angeles, not because it can't be here, but I'm headed somewhere and I don't know what. And anyway, so this is this conversation. I felt like that was a big turning point because I finally just acknowledged this angst and I acknowledged this thing in me that needed to breathe and see the light. And that was around June 2016. And by winter 2016, I'm in my office at UCLA. My friend comes in and she's flipping through her IG. I did not have IG at the time. And she said, look at this really cool person that I follow. And she wanted to show me a post. And I don't remember what the post is about, but I started flipping and this person had just graduated from this program, a midwifery training program in El Paso, Texas, right on the border with Juarez. And it was direct entry. It was Spanish speaking. And I saw that post and I immediately knew I'm going to school to be a midwife. And then that's the thing that's been pulling me. That's the move. I'm moving to Texas. You could have never told me in a million years I'd move to Texas. But what happened was in that acknowledgement, what came flooding back was that at 8 years old, I knew that I was meant to be a midwife. And so what came flooding back when I found this program was it all made sense. This like getting my master's in public health and writing this dissertation about cesarean sections and always have this fascination with the body reminded me of this conversation at 8 years old with Maya Parsons' mom, who had just had a baby. And she said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to deliver babies. And she said, oh, you want to be a doctor? And I said, nope. And she said, oh, do you want to be a nurse? And I said, no. And she said, oh, so you want to be a midwife? And I said, what's a midwife? And she told me. And so I had forgotten that conversation and that dream and that calling for 30 years. I had forgotten it was a thing. But in the decisions I made, you know, starting an undergraduate and moving forward in my career was actually just getting me closer to this thing that I had forgotten. And I forgot it because I went through a lot of trauma. I had a lot of childhood trauma. And so the dream and the calling got buried after 8 years old and it got excavated. And I left to study midwifery at 38, 39 years old.
Beautiful story. Beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what was it or how was it that you were able to tune into yourself enough to know that something was afoot? You know, because sometimes we see those things or we'll have what some people say are coincidences that happen that allow that awareness to take.
Mm-hmm.
And then we flow from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yet that's a crucial part of your journey is that you actually listened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You listened, you questioned, and you trusted enough to move forward. That's
Yeah.
big.
Thank you. You know, it was really scary to listen because what I was simultaneously grappling with was that, you know, childhood trauma and everything that I, you know, have touched on tricks the mind. Trauma's tricky. And I was trying to discern whether what I was feeling was another form of me self-sabotaging my relationship, which is something that I've had to struggle with, if I'm honest. Was it me being scared of going this long with this person? Was it me being a double Aquarius and needing an out because of legitimate reasons and just being straight up scared, right? So it was through struggling through all the other things simultaneously that I had to examine it because I was becoming aware through my yoga practice and through therapy that it might not be an authentic voice. it might be fear, and it might be trauma. And so, but the only way to know would be to listen and to tune in. And that the more I tried to ignore the thing, was having like somatic response, like my stomach hurt. I was really troubled. And I had to listen because I was afraid of misinterpreting it. I was afraid of blowing up my life. I was afraid of maybe signing a lease in a different apartment that I shouldn't have signed, which, you know what I mean? And so, ironically, it was starting the therapy journey and being aware how trauma can trick you into taking a path that seems right. It was in being able to kind of go, maybe I should actually really, really listen to this. So it was kind of coincidence, if you will, that I was healing other things at the same time. And that process made me listen even more to make sure that I wasn't throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And because what I've struggled with is when good things do happen, and I had this dream job, I go, well, what's wrong with me that I'm not satiated? What's wrong with me that I'm not satisfied? Why would I want to leave this? Is this real, or am I afraid of success? Right? I had to really sit with that. And it was real, but I had to really make sure.
I got it. I got it. I got it. And I think that's the thing too. It's like being okay with sitting with things. And then of course, as you said, following through. And sometimes I think that definitely has happened to me in the sense of I can't help but to listen. My body is telling me along with spirit that I should be listening. I should be going that way.
Mhm,
And
mhm, mhm.
so I think for me, what has allowed me and helped me to continue to walk the path is surrendering,
Yeah.
surrendering and at the same time having those necessary questions, which is, am I self-sabotaging myself? Am I stopping myself from progressing because of the fear?
Mhm.
And it is, whew, it's a journey with self for sure, in a sense of like that
It,
self-development,
it really is.
yeah.
And I think too that midwifery is a calling, birth work is a calling, being a doula is a calling. But I've come to understand that just because it's a calling does not mean that it's not informed by our own life experiences and our own karmic journey that we're working things out through.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
it's not as altruistic as people think. I'm a midwife because this is what my life, it's what I choose, and it's what chose me, but it's also the way that in this lifetime I'm working through my things. I
Yeah.
I need, I shouldn't say I need midwifery, but it's healing for me. It's not, I would be lying if I said it was just this altruistic thing where I want to save people and I want them to have this incredible birth, and it's about this maternal health crisis we're in. It's all of those things, but really, if I'm honest, it's the medicine my life needs. And it just so happens to help other people at the same time, which is beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I love that. I love that. And I love that because there are times where people have brought, these practices through and say, oh, well, they do just fit this one space where you can be all of this for everything. And it's about everyone else. It's not about you. It's about everyone else. And I'm just like, wait. It is about me though,
It
because if
is.
I don't do the work for myself, if I don't do the healing work for myself, if I don't take care of myself, then how am I able to
Mhm,
share, to teach, to
mhm.
guide? And so thank you for sharing that because that's a crucial part of it. And I know for myself, me showing up in this work is a part of my healing as well, my maternal healing.
Yep.
And when you say stories that, that help you to remember, I was in I had a very close relationship with my aunt. And when she had her first child, it was 13 years difference between us, having a cousin or whatnot. And 13 years for a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the last girl, and I was in there with her, holding her hand, and I forgot that.
Yep.
I had forgotten that I had already put myself
You had
in
already doulaed.
right. So it's one of those things. And, as I shared when I was in Lamert and I saw my midwife and I told her I was excited, I was like, I'm going to be a doula. And you already are,
Yep.
and so I think, having, of course, the people around you to support you through these shifts, and kudos to your partner for being in that space to to roll with you, and to trust that if you didn't know that love would still be, your anchor to keep you grounded, and all of those things, because it is healing work for us internally, and yet it is, understandably healing for people who are in communication and contact, who receive, the things that we're able to share because of our own healing.
Yep.
And yeah, it's like that instant cycle of,
Yes.
and so I'm super grateful to, of course, be in contact and community and connection with you, and giving thanks for you showing up and answering the call, because sometimes I can't front. I worked for the state of California, and I started at 22, and it felt like a dream job in the sense of having all of the time off, for holidays and all of the goodness, and tuition reimbursement, putting me through school and all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
I beat my forehead up against the cubicle so many times, and it was just like, this isn't it. This is not it. And um being taught that was it, I had a lot of things
Yeah.
to unlearn to be here in this space, and to be able to survive in this space as well. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all of us who are able to take those steps and really step to the edge.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's scary. But I also feel like it's okay that it's okay that we did the best we could and with what we had. And it's okay that the goals change, because I think that this idea that I get it's antiquated anyway, but this idea that you're just this one thing and you should stick with it and you're going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, that's just ridiculous, right? Like, it's okay to let our inner life force and that inner voice guide the decisions we make, and that can look different 10 years from now as it did 10 years ago, right? So it's okay that you had your dream job at 22 and it's not your dream job at 32. That's all
Oh.
right. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. You know what I mean? It just that's my double air sign talking of like, we don't have to box ourselves in. And I think that that's one of the beauties of getting older is, if we're kind of like this onion and we're just peeling layers back of ourselves, right? Like, I've the midwife's always been inside of me, the surfer's always been inside of me, the yogi's always been inside of me. It's just for me to peel back the layers, but that doesn't mean what I was doing when the onion was more robust at these outer, leaves, was any less genuine.
Love it, love it, love it. And so I want to share, or better yet, I would love for you to share what you're doing now, the awesome program that you and your business partner have created, for women of color, to receive services.
Yes.
Yeah, so would you mind
Oh,
sharing that
sure.
with us? For sure.
So, my business partner and I are together at Fertile Moon Midwifery and Wellness. That's Fertile Moon midwifery.com, and you can find us on IG at Fertile Moon Midwifery. we are home birth midwives here in Los Angeles who have decided that we are going to take a little sabbatical from actually catching the babies. And so what we're focusing on now is doing grassroots fundraising to offer our prenatal and postpartum services. So for folks who are already planning on birthing in a hospital for whatever reason, but who still want to benefit from midwifery care through their prenatal course or even postpartum, we're able to offer our services completely free for Black folks and at a 50% discount for people of color. So if you go to our website, fertilemoonmidwifery.com, you'll see that all of our services are free for Black folks, 50% off for people of color. And those services aren't just for pregnant people or postpartum folks. We also offer holistic gynecology, your basic gynecology, which is pap smear and STI screenings. My partner offers craniosacral therapy. So it's not, midwifery is not just for pregnant folks, it's a care model. And so all of our services are at a discounted rate right now. We were able to fundraise from our community and from our midwifery clients. We have a pot of money, no strings attached, to offer these services again for free and discounted rates. So please do check out our website, fertilemoonmidwifery.com. And the services are for folks who have Medi-Cal or other state insurance. And you can have up to 3 visits totally free. My partner also offers IUI services, so intrauterine insemination, so queer family building or folks that are struggling with infertility. All of those count. There's no services that aren't a part of this promotion. Like, you go on our website, you see a service that fits you, you enter the promo code, and you'll have the discounted rate or the free rate.
Thank you so much, Janell. Thank you for your work, and thank you for answering the call, as I mentioned. This was a beautiful, beautiful conversation, and I'm looking forward to having more as we continue to build and bring people, making sure that people know that these services are accessible, that they are here for them, and we're here to be supportive and be in community of each other. And so I look forward to sharing you with the Thick Girl Yoga LA community as well. And I'm also really, 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 really looking forward to surfing.
Oh, we're going to be out there. We're going to be falling together.
Yes,
Great.
and I love that. I love that. And
I can't wait.
Knowing that it's okay to fall, and there's so much beauty in it, right? There's beauty in it all. And so thank you all for joining us for this episode of The Cusp of Rebirth. Remember that your healing is in your hands. Big love to y'all. Y'all can catch us again on YouTube. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.